Before we jump into today's episode, quick disclaimer that this podcast isn't therapy. It's educational, not individualized advice. Everyone's brain and story are different, so if you're struggling, reach out to a licensed pro who can support you.
We talk about the stuff no one dares. ADHD, sex, and the science that cares. Real talk, raw truth, and the stories that heal. Welcome to ADHD Reality with Dr. B.
So today I have Caitlin V with me today. So I am really excited because today we're going to talk about all things male, pleasure, experience, everything, giving a little spotlight to the men in the room. But before we start, I always love to have my guests introduce themselves. So please introduce yourself, Caitlin, to the listeners today.
Hi, well, thank you so much for having me on. I am a sex and relationship coach. I am also a content creator. I have a YouTube channel with over 900,000 subscribers and a television show called Good Sex that you can find on HBO Max and on Discovery Plus. And for the last 10 years, I have been focused really on male performance anxiety. Before then, I was a professional sexual health researcher. I have a master's in public health, and I was actually working on my doctorate in public health. And I realized that I wasn't really meant for the ivory tower. I wasn't meant to be in the lab. I was meant to be with the people. So I left that in order to start coaching and kind of working with people one-on-one. And very soon after, I was featured on a YouTube video about squirting, which is a really favorite subject of the internet. That video blew up, and all of a sudden, I had thousands of men coming to me for coaching. And the majority of them were dealing with some kind of performance anxiety that was manifesting as premature ejaculation very often, sometimes erectile dysfunction, sometimes delayed ejaculation, sometimes like a combination of those, often just a feeling that they weren't performing the way that they wanted to in bed. And that's why they were interested in learning about squirting. But it gave me a unique opportunity to say yes to what was in front of me and the people who were asking me for help. And it's really become a passion of mine over the last 10 years. And the focus of my work, the focus of my upcoming book, Harder, Better, Longer, Stronger. And it's just, it's like, if you told me 10, 15 years ago that this is what I would end up being an expert in, I would never have believed you. But I'm so grateful to be here and to be able to talk about and talk to men about their sexuality.
That's awesome. And yeah, squirting it definitely is a big topic. And I think then that's like the first thing that I think of because I know I work with a lot of heterosexual couples and individuals. So most of the time, the men that I'm working with, if there is a discrepancy in desire, those are
hmm
generally my things. But for
hmm
you, it sounds like it goes a lot deeper. Now, I tap into definitely like the expectations and the scripts and stuff. But I think the first thing my mind goes to straightforward is when you said like you had men coming to you about anxiety, like what do you find the biggest form of male performance anxiety that you work with? I don't know if that's too much of a broad question to start with, but like that's
Yeah.
kind of where my head goes.
I mean, I think the interesting thing about performance anxiety is that it can come through in a whole bunch of different ways. Like it's unique sort of to each individual in how it's going to present. So for a lot of men, up to about 30% of men, it's going to present as losing control over their orgasm. And because we biologically evolved in order to, uh, to prioritize the man ejaculating, because that is like how all of us were created.
Mm-hmm.
Men who ejaculate early are like pretty normal, right? Like that is a pretty normal, pretty like average way for the body to respond to having too much performance pressure, right? They lose control. They're not able to like maintain their level of arousal. It feels like it becomes too much too fast, and so their body goes to ejaculate. It's a very common way that men respond to performance anxiety. But a percentage of men and a growing percentage across all age groups deal with their performance anxiety by not being able to get or stay hard. And that has a whole bunch of other factors that might affect it as well, like their partner's belief around their performance, the state of their relationship, the like emotional bond between them and their partner. I mean, those can be affected by erectile or those can affect premature ejaculation as well. But then you get into erectile dysfunction, and then beyond that, delayed ejaculation, which is a man's inability to reach orgasm, and that can also come as a response to or an outcome of dealing with performance anxiety.
Mm.
So the majority of men that come to me deal with premature ejaculation. That's sort of like what I initially started my work with. And in terms of like people who have discrepancies of desire, I think there often is a performance anxiety aspect of that. Sometimes the desire discrepancy comes from, the man not really being able to or feeling like he knows how to prioritize his partner's experience because he's under so much performance pressure that he put on himself. So I think it's all like very intermixed, and I think it's really interesting. I think that the way that we typically talk about men's health and men's sexuality is very reductive. And so it's like you have this, take this pill, like it treats the male body very much like a machine. And I mean, even the body itself is, if it is a machine, it's a machine that has a cardiovascular system and a
Mhm.
neurological system and an endocrine system. But still, men have hearts and minds, emotions and spirits that also impact their ability to be intimate and have the kind of sex that they want. And so it can become a really complex and very highly
Yeah.
subjective and individual thing.
Like I always say, nuance, baby. There's just a lot of nuance there, right? And I think to
Yeah,
myself too, when you're talking about this, you know, what then constitutes premature ejaculation? Like what are we talking about here? Normal versus not normal. Can you
right.
give listeners a little bit better idea of what that can kind of look like?
Totally. So there's not one agreed upon definition. So the way that I like to think about it is before both you and your partner were ready.
Okay.
Period. Like if it was before you were ready and you ejaculated, if it's before she or he or they were ready, that was too soon. And ultimately, I think what it comes down to is the feeling that you have the ability to control whether or not you ejaculate most of the time.
Okay. So I think to myself then, are people stressing about needing to orgasm and it being like this longevity thing with the work that you're doing? Because, like, so where my mind is going is a lot of the time, things that I work with my clients is enjoying the time that you're with your partner and it not always being about an orgasm, right? Ejaculating, enjoying the touch, the
Hmm.
build up, and if you do ejaculate, still being able to touch and not feel like that's
Hmm.
the end all and be all, so when I hear premature ejaculation for the work that you do with your couples and individuals is really about like, are you ejaculating before or after when you're ready, etc. How do people gain control of that? Like my mind is going in 3 million different places. I don't know if you're feeling where I'm going with this, but I'm just like so interested in this because it's like, how do you tap into your body to stop
Totally.
doing what it's doing? Is it just then the performance
Yeah.
anxiety piece? Is that what we're talking about here that's really limiting people in this capacity?
So what I found is that it comes down to tension more than anything else. We can trace it to physical tension in the pelvic floor, like the
Okay.
body actually being closer to orgasm, because what is one definition of orgasm is the pleasurable release of the buildup of tension. And if you go into a sexual encounter and your entire pelvic floor is super tense and super tight, not to mention maybe the rest of your body, right? Because when we are tense or fearful or concerned that we're not going to perform or we're
Yeah.
going to ejaculate too soon, like we hold tension, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all constrict in whenever we're faced with stuff that we're fearful or concerned or anxious about. So you go into sex with a ton of tension, you're that much closer to orgasm. But there's also the tension that you bring into your like emotional and mental body, right? So if you have the mental load of like, ooh, I have to perform. What if I don't last? The last time that I didn't last, she gave me that disappointed face. Ooh, everything that I've heard about on the internet, every piece of sex ed that I received from porn and not from anywhere else. And by the way, even quality sex ed doesn't talk about like sex as I don't remember ever having a conversation about the duration of sex, right?
Nope.
Because so much of sex ed has nothing to do with female pleasure, right?
Yep.
It's really not about that. It's mostly about avoiding pregnancy and avoiding STIs, right? Like that's the sum of sex
Fear
ed.
mongering.
Yeah, it's never about like, in order women's bodies tend to take between 20 and 40 minutes to reach peak arousal in order to have an orgasm. Like no one talks about how long sex can last or the purpose of having sex at all, which is pleasure, is just
Mhm.
completely left out of the conversation. So a lot of tension can get built up around our thoughts and our minds, like the things that we are just repeatedly telling ourselves as we go into a sexual encounter, which, by the way, further remove us from our body and from a felt experience of our body, which makes it even harder to know where we are, say, on the arousal spectrum. If like one is completely unaroused or zero is totally unaroused and 10 is ejaculating, like where are you on that spectrum at any given moment? If you're in your head, you're not necessarily going to be as capable of noticing that. Not to mention that the way that you've orgasmed or masturbated may have been entirely about getting to orgasm your entire life, right? As quickly as possible. And so your body, your mind, all trained towards getting to orgasm and getting there fast and efficiently. And then you can also have tension like in your emotional body. You can have tension in the relationship. I know plenty of men who have been in, say, like long-term relationships, and they've gotten the memo over time that their wife doesn't really like having sex with them. Like she does it because she loves him and it's not a non-consensual. She wants to have sex with him, but it's not because she loves it.
Mm-hmm.
And so he feels a little guilty that he's asking her to do something that she doesn't want to do, right? And so he allows his body to get trained over time to just get it over with, because that's how we associate the male orgasm with the end, right? So he's trained himself to just ejaculate quickly because of guilt. So there can be tension inside of our emotional bodies as well. And so all of this tension leads to it becoming a lot more difficult to do the things that are required to prevent yourself from ejaculating. And that is being deeply in touch with your body, like somatically aware, knowing where you're holding tension, where you're feeling pressure, being able to thoughtfully and purposefully release it. Breathing. I often, when people ask me, like, what's your number one piece of advice for men? It's like, breathe. Breathe during sex. Take deep breaths, take slow breaths, take 4, 7, 8 breaths. Like, do whatever you need to do to move slowly enough that you can actually intentionally breathe, because it will help you to remain in control of your body and intentionally, with your actions, with your words, with the actual like physical acts that you're moving through. Like the slower that you can go, the deeper that you can breathe, the more that you will be able to steer the motion and make it reflective of like what it is that you both actually want and need.
Mm.
And yeah, it's going to look less like a porno. You don't see two things in porn, hands and slow, deep breaths, right? Hands are never really involved. The hands are just used to grip and grab and,
You know,
grope.
it's
They're
really
not.
funny. I've never thought of that, but you are like spot on. Like you don't really see the fucking hands.
Right. There's no like gentle caressing in porn. We're never like, oh, look at the way he tenderly touched her jawline. I mean, that would get me for sure. But we don't see the way, and in real sex, you're touching your lover, right? Your hands are almost always involved in, or you're touching yourself, but your hands are involved in some way. And then we don't really see people other than doing like, right, like cardio breathing. We don't really
Uh-huh.
see people like taking slow, intentional breaths, but just the same way that that helps you to get into your body in a yoga class or doing a cold plunge, it's the same is true that it will help you to get into your body during a sexual encounter.
Yeah, and you know it's really funny. I'm the comedy girl over here, so like laughter in my sex life is just it's just a, it happens all the time. And I think of that too. Like so many people probably restrict themselves from allowing themselves to laugh in those moments and get really like insecure or overthink the moment and then really feel like embarrassed and disconnected.
Ah,
You know, because I think of laughing yoga or whatever it is, right? So like I think of like breathing, yeah, but I also think laughing could be part of this
totally,
too. Like
totally.
lean in, enjoy like connection and be part because you don't see laughing in
I
porn.
mean,
You definitely don't
laughing
see it.
releases tension, right? Like
Yeah.
anything that releases tension moves you to a place where you have more control over your body and
Yeah.
whether or not you reach orgasm. So, laughing, crying, speaking, sometimes just naming the thing, the elephant in the room, like getting that off your chest,
Uh-huh.
even if the thing is, I'm really nervous about coming too quickly. Like that can release a boatload of pressure.
Yeah.
That can make it a lot easier for you not to, or you can have a whole conversation. If I do ejaculate before we're both ready, how do you want to, what would you like to do in the minutes following that?
Yeah.
What do you need from me? Do you need reassurance? Do you need to know that we're going to take a break, that we're going to, I'll make sure
Mhm.
that we continue our touch and our intimacy in one way or another? Sometimes making sound, I think so many people are really afraid to look foolish. And so we don't make like guttural sounds and animal sounds, but sex is the perfect time to make like
Mhm.
weird animal sounds and get grunty and stuff. Like, yeah, all of these things are tension reduction activities.
And I think also what you're talking about is the form of just being open with one another and communicating and not getting stuck inside of this expectation pathway, if you will. So I think that's actually something I want to ask you. You know, when we think about expectations that men are carrying, and we're talking about performance, obviously, I think to myself from the work I do, I work with tons of men who expect themselves to please their partners. That's their
Hmm.
job, that's their
Hmm.
role.
Hmm.
And I know that that's a popular one, but outside of that, like, do you notice any common expectations men are going into that are really causing a lot more of their anxiety than needs to be there?
Oh yeah, I think they're so many of them are permutations of the one that you named. One of them is I have to know everything and I can't ask questions. Right? In order to be sexually competent, I have to come into this encounter knowing exactly what to do and how to do it to her body today in order to get the result that we're both expecting. And in order to get there, I can't, I have to, I am not allowed to ask questions at all. If I ask questions, then I look weak, I look inexperienced, I look like I don't know what I'm doing, which is so outrageous and such a weird, I mean, I understand where it comes from, but if you really like dissect it, what an outrageous suggestion that you would be able to, from puberty, be able to be an amazing lover to every single person who you are with without ever having to use your words to deter. Like, you can't cook a good meal for somebody without having a conversation with them first about, like, do you have any gluten allergies? Do you like
Mm-hmm.
spicy food? Like, why would we treat sex any differently than that? It's very
Uh-huh.
similar, right?
I
In a
feel
lot of
like you're
respects.
talking about like the mind reader thing, like how we all just get
Yeah,
so trapped into this idea that we're supposed to be mind readers. And it's like, I haven't met one yet. I mean, fuck,
totally.
I would love to be a mind reader, but it's just not the reality we're given, is it?
Right, right. We developed language, and so we get to use it. And it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. In fact, I think more and more we're normalizing that it's actually very attractive in a man. And also, I mean, I think it's always been a part of what we expected from women is they're going to ask questions and talk and communicate. It's not true universally, of course, but I think now most of us recognize that it is very attractive in a heterosexual man for him to ask questions and use his words to get clear on what it is that like both people are expecting from a sexual encounter.
And I'll
Uh,
even piggyback off of that because what you're also talking about is what's sexy is that he's not coming in just trying to problem solve everything on his own. That
yes.
he's an active participant and he's actually willing to be vulnerable to be given instructions or
Yeah.
input that wasn't his to begin with.
Right. And that he has thoughts and opinions and desires of his own.
Yeah, yeah,
He's
yeah,
like not
100%.
just in there to like, figure you out like a Rubik's cube and then
Mm-hmm.
ejaculate real quick and then leave.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, that he's allowed to make noise, experience pleasure. I a friend of mine, Cam Fraser, who's a men's coach from Australia, is he introduced me to this concept. I never thought of it before, but the word pleasure is not associated with men. Like pleasure is something that women are allowed to do and have an experience, but
Mm-hmm.
men, they're allowed to like enjoy things. And the
Yeah.
only place where pleasure is like allowable in our society for masculine people is in sex. Yeah, and it makes sense. Like I never heard anybody describe like their fishing trip or their workout was like super pleasurable.
Yeah.
You know,
Ooh,
playing
this is
video
like
games,
titillating.
right? Playing video games, like I bet it is pleasurable, right? But like that's not the language that you would ever hear describing it.
Fair.
Yeah. So there's all this pressure, there's all this expectation. Like, this is the one place in your life where you are allowed to experience pleasure, but also it's not about you. You have to be pleasuring her the whole time, which takes you out of your body and puts you into this sort of like you're hyper vigilant about her body
Mm.
while kind of spectatoring your own body, right? Like you're
It's like
hoping that
having a
your body
threesome.
yeah, you're outside of yourself, watching her, kind of watching you, but like who's putting attention on the inside of your body, right? A lot of guys, a
Mm.
lot of my clients, as soon as they sort of make that switch of being able to monitor their own arousal during sex, like you have to put one eye in each realm, right? You got to like you have to have one piece of your awareness outside of you and one piece inside, and that is a skill set. It can be learned. It does take a degree of discipline and practice, but it is learnable. Most of us learn it. You learn it when you have kids, right?
Mm.
You could be like you could be managing six things all at once and still you have like one piece of your awareness is in the other room
Yeah.
with the kids. Or like
Yep.
while they're asleep, making sure that they're not awake. Like we learn it. We do know how to do this. It's just applying that same skill set to something else.
And I
And then
love I love that you're bringing that up because what you're saying is that it isn't that you're incapable. It's just that you've never been given that like pathway or the blueprint that these are options for you. And if you're given them, you can literally recreate the dynamic in such an empowering and liberating way, I'm hearing.
That is like the core thesis of my book, by the way. You just named it. Is like it's not that it's impossible. It's not that it's for women. It's not that it's not that you're not capable of doing it. It's just that like no one ever really gave you the blueprint. The thing about
Mm,
the blueprint is that actually it's not that complicated. Some things are more difficult than others.
yeah.
But if you start training and developing in these areas right now, you will start seeing differences right away, and the differences will compound so that 2, 5, 10, 15 years down the road, you won't even recognize yourself when it comes to sex. And the cool thing about sex is that it translates to all of the other areas of your life. It's not, we treat it sort of like it's independent of everything else, but it's not. You don't check, your erotic self at the door when you walk into the party or when you walk into the restaurant or
Mhm.
sit down at dinner with your like you are a whole, and in the more that you are allowed to like integrate all of the parts of you, it doesn't mean that you're going to start making dick jokes at dinner with your in-laws.
I mean, maybe
That's
you will if
not.
you're me.
Maybe it depends on your in-laws. Oh my God. Yeah, same. We're blessed to work in the field that we do. But and there's one other thing that I want to say that men do carry into bed with them, and we touched on this earlier, is they carry insecurity because, again, so many of them have watched porn. And I mean, now, if you're in your late 20s, 30s, early 30s, you had porn on cell phones as early as high school,
Yeah.
right? You've just had this like really unbelievable access to visual erotic material that no generation before you has ever had. I mean, for me, I found dirty magazines under like my cousin's bed. That was my first, oh my God, this
Same and
exists, right? Yeah.
a dial up,
Dial
or
up where you
watching
had
the
to wait.
fuzzy on the screens, the fuzziness
Uh-huh.
on the screens,
Uh-huh.
and having
Oh
to
my
like
God, you had
hear.
to choose to want you had to want that picture so bad. I mean, I remember torrenting things, right? And you'd click on it and then it would take 15 minutes to load, and then you'd be like, oh no, that's not what we wanted. And then
Yep.
someone's mom would come home. Like so there's this built-in performance pressure now because so many men, and this is true for women. I'm painting in a broad brush, and I'm mostly speaking about heterosexual men here, but this really applies to like a lot of folks.
Mhm.
If all you have is porn, then what you have in your own life, your own body, especially your own penis, your own like relationship with the person in front of you, the sort of like lack of intensity that a lot of like routine like relationship sex has, it's not face fucking and gangbangs
Mhm.
and like and you may there's nothing wrong with any of those categories of porn. I'm not here to yuck anyone's yum, but if that's all you have access to, then your own sex life is going to not measure up to what you have seen and what you have thought and associated sex with being. And a lot of men are carrying that very unconsciously into the bedroom. And it shows up as insecurity, it shows up as low self-esteem, it shows up as expectations on themselves to be and do, professional level performative sex.
Yeah. And
And
I
that's
also think
unrealistic.
too, when people are watching porn, they're not talking. They're looking, they're taking it in,
Yeah.
they're using it as data,
Hmm.
and then they're just doing, right? And so that's another
Yeah.
component to it. Even just from a very young age, if you're looking at porn as your main go-to for what sex is supposed to look like, or even to exercise your interests, and no one else is part of that discussion, and it's always just you and what
Mm.
you want or what you think the person wants, you're not exercising that communication piece. It makes
Yes.
total sense.
Did you see there was a study done probably in the last couple years where college age women were reporting being choked non-consensually by college age men
Mhm.
during sex?
I've had many clients like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I'm in my late 30s. I don't think we were completely devoid of this at the time that I went to college. I don't remember a specific incidents, but who knows? I'm sure it was
Oh,
happening then.
listen, I gotta tell you, and I'm sorry to jump in here because this is my ADHD brain, but like you're talking about like something as small as when I used to date. I don't know what the hell it was, but men would always want to like whisper and nibble on my fucking ear.
Ah.
And I'm like, I don't know where you learned that, but that is a no-go for me. Like, stop. It
Oh,
was
really?
so like this,
Oh my God, get in there. I want your tongue up
yeah,
in my
I'm
ear.
not. But like that's like
But
the
you
same
got to do
thing.
both ears. I don't know if this is an ADHD thing, but you can't leave me asymmetrical. If you get one ear wet, you have to get the other one. My partner, sometimes when we're doing like a little kink like dom sub play, he will like leave me asymmetrical. Like he'll do something to one side of my body and then not to the other. And it is the biggest, easiest way to torture me, for
Yeah.
sure.
No,
Just
and so you like that, I don't, but that was like very similar. Like this idea of like choking, it's like what you see and what you hear
yes,
and
yeah,
what you like. And it's like, why aren't you asking me what the fuck I want and what I like?
right,
Come on
right.
now.
Right. And why did you assume that because, choking was very common in porn, that it was common in porn because women were demanding it
Yeah. And it
and
was the
not for some other
category you were
reason?
watching. It's not called life.
Yeah. Right. And then they're having these like really traumatic experiences because they're like, is he trying to kill me? Is he drunk?
Yeah.
What's going on? So anyway, the way that like these things have really seeped into our culture is, I mean, I think we're still kind of learning about it. And it doesn't mean, what I always say to my clients, if they are coming to me because they want to last longer in bed, one of the things that I request that they do for the time they were working together is to stop masturbating to porn, stop watching porn. And it's not because porn is bad. It's because porn allows you to put your focus so far outside of yourself onto what's happening on the screen that you are not, when you get with a partner, going to be able to do the thing that I mentioned earlier, where you need to be able to focus internally and track your own body as much, if not more, than you are tracking the other person's. And the more that you practice putting your focus out, the harder it is for you to continuously bring it back in. Once you learn how to do that, once you're able to last, up until the degree that you both want, the length that you both want, then you can reintroduce erotic material intentionally, but only from the place of I'm only watching this and I'm only going to masturbate to it so long as I can stay in my own body while I'm doing it.
Fair. And you know, it's interesting because I'm going to bring in the piece of what I do. I work with a lot of ADHD clients. And so porn in and of itself is a form of stimulation and
Mm.
regulation. So for a lot of people, even when they're going into the sex, the problem and the disconnect for a lot of men that I work with is that they're not being stimulated enough. Hence, where the
Mm.
premature ejaculation or the more delayed ejaculation is occurring, or no ejaculation at all is occurring because of the stimulation piece. So I help my clients map that, and porn actually is the most easy, most efficient way to get that stimulation, and
Mm.
your dick's right there. So it's like bada boom, right?
So do you have them take a porn break?
I don't actually. And the reason I don't is because as long as there's a healthy relationship with the porn use and there's no like moral incongruence, so like feeling shame
Sure. Right,
or
right, right,
there is
right.
any issues with the partner as well, we integrate it in a very nervous system kind of way because when we put ADHD into the mix, it's very different. It's not just about preference. It is a survival form of accommodation, a regulation, if you can use it in a way that works with yourself and your needs, where it's not causing more barriers, if that makes
Mm.
sense.
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
So what you said, like, is spot on. And there are some people, and I totally agree with you. I think when you're really trying to integrate and become more connected with your partner, and you're trying to get this idea of performance out the window, obviously it makes sense. Minimize the input in that keeps reminding you of that so you can be more intentional. But when you do have ADHD into the mix, that stimulation piece is so important because if now you're under aroused for those
Uh-huh.
types of clients, it creates now another barrier, another layer, and so it can get a little tricky. But I think the combination of those two things together for people to be aware of is like so important when you're
Yeah, what I
navigating.
always say is like it's not what you do, it's how you do it.
100%.
Right? So
Yeah.
like porn or no, breathing or no, sex or no,
Yeah.
like it's not what you're doing, it's how you're doing it. Are you doing it in an intentional way that is supportive of your goals? Are you
Mhm.
doing it in a way that causes you to feel shame? Are you doing it in a way that allows you to
Yeah.
connect more deeply to yourself and your partner? Though there's an area, and I don't, I'm not well versed, and there's not a whole lot of literature on it to be versed on anyways. But I think the relationship between ADHD and premature ejaculation should get a lot more attention than it
Yes, so
does.
many other things. You're right. There's too
Yeah.
many gaps in the literature, but I'm interested why. Why do you think that is? Let's hear it. I love it. Let's talk.
Yeah. Well, okay. I want to hear your thoughts on it too. Um, why do I think it's not researched, or why do I think that there's a relationship between them?
Why do you think there's a relationship? I already know why it's not fucking researched.
Oh, okay, 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 okay. Go. Um, I think that, like I said before, premature ejaculation is an adaptive response of our bodies that dates back hundreds of thousands of years. And I think that especially men early on in life, when you've got as much testosterone as you're ever going to produce naturally, and you've maybe got less stress than you're going to have. Maybe a lot of guys, let me go back and say this. A lot of men incorrectly think that premature ejaculation will go away with age.
Hmm.
But what actually often happens, I think, is that your body's just so tuned to ejaculate that no matter what, like it's still going to happen. And, or you have a higher likelihood of reaching ejaculation. Same with erectile dysfunction. But I think that like as we age and more, um, as we are more like experienced with ourselves and with our sexuality, I think that there's a subcategory of men who have ADHD who experience premature ejaculation even more often. Like it's just sort of their body's way of saying, okay, this is like a deep theory. I don't know that this is true or not. I think it's in some,
We're in
I
a
think it's a
safe
part.
space. Just
Okay.
spew.
Okay. I think in some ways it's their body's way of saying, like, let's get this over with so we can do something else. Let's get this over with so that we can move on to something that's like more interesting, more stimulating, that where there's less pressure involved, where there's no way that I can fail at it, right? It's this
Hmm.
great irony, right? Is
Yeah.
that I think if I ejaculate too soon, then I failed, but the risk that I'm failing, that I have a chance of failure, is going to make me ejaculate,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
I
And then
think you're kind of keep going. Sorry. Keep going. You do
no,
you.
okay, that was validating. I got the validation. And then on the other side, I think there is also a category of men for whom having ADHD puts them more in the space of having delayed ejaculation. And it becomes a lot harder for them to reach ejaculation, partially because they are not stimulated enough. And I think that my experience is that these things men start to notice them more or like maybe care about them a lot more once they get to like their mid 30s and they realize that it's not just taking care of itself. It's not just going away on its own. And for a lot of them, I think it actually like it gets worse or intensifies in one way or the
Mhm.
other.
So I think with the work that so first and foremost, just so you know, the research actually, there was just a research article that was released a couple of months ago, 2025, and it was looking at females and ADHD and orgasm. And we see it across the board, but more so with the inattentive presentation, we're seeing less satisfaction within reaching orgasm for females. And it's
So like, they
because
reach orgasm, but it's not as satisfying.
no, it's hard to get that orgasm.
Uh-huh.
So we're seeing less satisfaction in the orgasm department. So it makes sense though, because inattention is that stimulation piece, right? Like, and in this research in particular, it actually showed that they were seeing women, females who had hyperactive presentation actually wasn't having the same issues because their arousal was impulsive, it was hyperactive,
Uh-huh.
and it was really more in line. So when you think of that, and then you look at a male's experience, I can totally understand the same thing. If the male themselves have an inattentive presentation, they're under aroused, under stimulated, they're going to check out, they're going to struggle to A, keep their erection, B, have an orgasm. And then for those that are hyperactive, impulsive related, if you're using that research, it kind of makes sense, right? It's
Interesting.
stimulation, get on to the next thing. What's next? And
Uh-uh.
more stimulation, more stimulation. I tend to see clients in my practice who are gravitating towards porn and for stimulation pieces, having more of the hyperactive impulsivity presentation more than the inattentive. So
Interesting.
I definitely think you're really on to something in terms of how you've been formulating it in your mind. I would definitely love to see literature looking at that more because I think that plays a significant role as well.
Me too. And
100%.
I have another question for you is, do you find, or do you think that because one of my theories is that the more that we can learn to sort of like surf waves of stimulation, the longer that we'll be able to like forego having an orgasm. We also tend to have larger and better orgasms because of a process called edging, where you can get close to having an
Mhm.
orgasm but not go over the edge and then come back. And like that process really relies on an ability to ride a wave of stimulation very like carefully. And I say right away, like in the sense that like, when you watch surfers, like they have to be like right at the tip of it, right? Like they have to be
Yeah.
right on it or else the wave comes for them. And I'm curious if you think that folks with ADHD have maybe even a unique advantage to doing that over folks who don't have it because of their relationship with stimulation.
So I think it could go both ways, right? Like
Hmm.
I think those who maybe have heightened sensory concerns, and I see this more with females than males though, they may struggle to ride the wave. So they can't get to that place where they can edge or they can
Mm,
build. There can be something that pulls them out when we're talking about inattention, right? But then at the same time, those who are constantly looking for forms of stimulation, they could ride the wave, but the wave has to be a wave that's going to take on the stimulation that's needed.
right.
And that can vary from person to person, time to time. So, like, your wave can look one way one time, but it
Totally,
may have
yes.
to look like a completely separate wave the next time.
Hmm.
So, I think
Hmm.
honestly, ADHD might actually complicate that more than benefit it, if
Yeah,
that makes
interesting.
sense. If you have this expectation that every single time you're interacting, it has to look a certain way.
Right, right. Okay, so can we talk about the erotic blueprints? Do we have time to do
Yes, of
that?
course, 100%. Let's
Okay.
talk. Let's talk.
So as I was prepping for our conversation, I kept like getting kind of intuitive pings of like the erotic blueprints are relevant here and we need to talk about them. Are you familiar with them? Have you had someone
I've
on to
heard
talk
them
about them before?
briefly. I've heard them briefly. I haven't ever had to like touch on them with any of the work I've done. So feel free to
Great.
educate myself and my listeners.
Okay, great, great, great. So erotic blueprints is a system for understanding how our arousal and our turn on work in our bodies as individuals. They were sort of developed by my mentor, Jaya, and there are five different kinds. So there's five different erotic blueprints. I'm going to give them to you in the order that I recommend you try them on in for yourself or for a lover, especially if you don't know someone that well. This is always the order that I would approach another person in, unless I knew them well enough to suspect that their arousal was in a different order. And every individual is going to have sort of a different order where one thing can lead to another and kind of open the door to the next. But that's my caveat is that's why I'm going to give them to you in this order. And this is the order from sort of the least intense to the most intense. So
Cool.
the first erotic blueprint is the energetic blueprint. And these are folks who are turned on by space and tease and anticipation. And they're like, it's less the thing than the thought of the thing happening is the big turn on there. Like we're aroused by the idea of being pursued or having the encounter, and we're aroused by the space in between the things more than just the thing itself. So like the moment before you lean in for the kiss. They also need for the energy between them and their partner, like the intangible aspects, the like the emotional and relational aspects of their relationship, the literal energy between the two of them have to be solid for them to feel arousal. Like they need an energetic connection before they can have a physical connection. They also are very sensitive, so they're likely to short circuit. So if you go directly to like nipples or breasts or genitals, then they can be like, that was too much because they're so sensitive. And because they're so sensitive, they can also have full non-genital, even non-touch related orgasms, full body orgasms without even being stimulated. You can have, someone come into your field and arouse you in just the right way, or say just the right thing to you, or like bring their full energetic presence, or penetrate you with their energy and be aroused
I
and have
fucking love that.
orgasms as a result
Penetrate
of
you with
that.
your energy.
Dude,
Ooh.
there's a whole subsection in the book about the energy cock, which is something that Jaya learned and I further developed for the book on how to fuck your partner with your energy cock.
Oh my
Like
God. I'm
it's,
gonna like sidebar note right now. I'm totally telling my husband when he gets home, I want you to penetrate me with your energy, baby.
yeah,
Just fucking
tell him.
penetrate me.
Right. And then do it when we're not having sex, when you're not physically penetrating me, and then do it sometimes when we're not. Like I want you to do that, like wake me up with it, you know? Like
Yeah.
I try to do that. I do this with my partner all the time. Like we'll just be like snuggling in bed and I'll like just like surround him with like energy pussy. Like I'll just see if I can like I'm like, can I without saying a fucking thing, can I like completely arouse and seduce this person from like perfect stillness without moving or speaking?
I love this. Okay,
It's
sorry,
really
sorry.
fun.
Keep it going.
So,
Keep it
so,
going.
so that's their superpower is that sensitivity, but it's also their shadow side. It's just how sensitive that they are. Like they can short circuit if you come on too fast, you can like completely throw them off. They can really like struggle to get back into it. They also can be like a little like hierarchical. They can be a little bit like this is the right way to do the sex, and so like how dare you, you're a
Okay.
heathen if you want to do it any other way. Um, but they like they have this like and by the way if that doesn't sound like you and you're listening and you're like that's so not me like I invite you to consider that like actually everyone has some degree of like energetic presence and that may be you and you
Yeah.
maybe just haven't experienced it yet and maybe it is your partner. So useful frame. All right, let's continue. Second blueprint is the sensual blueprint. So sensual folks are turned on by their five senses, things that look and taste and touch and smell and sound. They have a super high tolerance for pleasure. So like I'm very sensual myself. I like to be wearing things that are like fuzzy and cozy. And I could have a massage with my partner and then take a shower and then put on some music that we both love and then eat some like food that we both find delicious and then like cuddle for a long time and then make love for a long time. Like pleasure, 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 pleasure in all of the senses. They also have really unique shadow side. Number one, they can get drawn out of their body and like an orgasm can just go missing like that. They could be at the edge of orgasm and then all of a sudden they're pulled up in their head and the orgasm is gone. So if that's ever happened to you, you probably have central blueprint. Their other shadow side is that things that are not right in their environment can throw them off to such a degree that like it can be hard for them to stay present. So like the sheets are not perfect, the pillows aren't lined up correctly. There's a pile of dirty laundry in the corner. I hate this song. The air is not the right temperature. Like things in their sensory environment can
Mhm.
take them out of their erotic experience. And the what I think is like really I think fascinating about like the sensual in particular is that one of the best ways to bring them back, to catch that orgasm before it goes flying away because they start thinking about the grocery list, is to ground them really firmly in their body. So we're not talking all the way to like BDSM touch, but like firm holds, more intensity can help them to stay right there in their body in order to even reach orgasm. And I'd be curious about some of the inattentive folks that we were talking about, like maybe that's where those two things overlap.
Mm.
So, third blueprint, sexual blueprint. This is what we all think of when we think of eroticism. This is triple X and strippers and porn. Like it's genitals, it's orgasms, it's like physical body. The superpower is that it's very straightforward. It's very simple. It's like it doesn't need a ton of bells and whistles. A naked body, genitals, like we're interested, we're up, we're aroused. Let's go. The energy doesn't need to be right. The
Mm.
candles don't need to be lit. Like they can enjoy sex in a very like simple, straightforward manner.
Okay.
The shadow side is that sometimes they can't really understand why the bells and whistles are necessary. Like, why is it that we need to do
Do
our
all this stuff.
why do we have to breathe and do this energy connection stuff and do all this?
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So they can downplay it. Their other shadow side of them is that, and this is maybe not a shadow side. I guess it's like neutral, but it can become a shadow if you don't know how to deal with it. And that is for them, having sex is like your daily bread or like the rice that you have with every meal
Mm-hmm.
or like knowing that you're going to have air to breathe. And so when they don't know that sex is going to happen, like let's say, you're in a relationship and like, your partner's like, oh, I can't tonight. I'm not feeling up for it. Like, we'll do it sometime this week or whatever. They can be like, can we schedule it? Can we do it tomorrow? Like, is that Saturday? Is it gonna be next week? Like, I just need to know. Just the same way that like if you don't have like, bread with your meal, like you might be like, oh, when's the next time that we are gonna have bread? I'm used to having bread. So
I
like for
love
them,
my fucking bread.
it's just a part of life, you know?
Bread and
Yeah.
butter. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When you took it away, you'd be like, where's the bread? When are we gonna have bread again? Are we gonna have bread again tomorrow? Can I have bread lunch? So it's a sexual blueprint. So let's go. We've got energetic, sensual, sexual. Number four is kinky. And kinky in the blueprints refers to things that are taboo, both psychologically and physically. So
Mm.
it's whatever is taboo to you. It's entirely subjective. So for some folks, like having sex out of missionary is kind of taboo, right? Whereas for others folks, like that that's not taboo at all. And like blood play is the only thing that's kind of like taboo for them, right? The cool thing about the kinky blueprint is that the it is never ending creativity, right? Like
Mm.
kinky folks can find a way to use anything and everything inside of erotic play They can turn your pain or your shame or your trauma into like erotic theater for healing. They can turn every appliance in your kitchen into a sex toy in order to create different stimulation. Like it is the home of erotic creativity. And the shadow side is shame and needing greater and greater levels of intensity in order to reach the same amount of arousal or turn on. So if you have, say, like developed a tolerance to the thing that used to be really taboo for you,
Mhm.
you may need to continue to seek more or different things that are taboo or more intensity in order to reach the same levels of pleasure. I also like to say that like we all have a little bit of a kinky blueprint person in us, and if you don't think you do, look across the whole of your life and ask yourself, where do you enjoy breaking the rules? Because there's one area that you kind of like getting away with something, you know? Like I say that people who like to like I like to see if I can get into the VIP when I'm not supposed to be there, you know?
I
Like
would
I just want to
die.
see. I
I
just
would
want to
be
see. Like,
uh-uh.
no, I'm like,
I
can I
would be
just like
so shy. I'd be like, I'm a rule follower in that regard. Like, I'll just feel so overstimulated trying to pretend to be
the
something I'm not. I would lose it.
I very much respect that. That's not your kink.
Not my kink.
But I love just like, let's just see if we can get away with this. Like the little jolt of pleasure that
Mm.
you get from breaking a rule or something that feels arbitrary. Or maybe it's like, the HOA said you couldn't plant gardenias or whatever, but you did. Like we all have like a little bit of like, ooh, I got away with it. Um, and then we take the pleasure that we get from that into a erotic or sexual space. Like that's really what I'm talking about when I say the kinky blueprint. So like I'm not
Mm.
supposed to like this, but I do, is
Mhm.
the like the core arousal of the kinky blueprint. And then finally, last is the shapeshifter. Now, shapeshifter is a combination, someone who can speak in all four of the other blueprints. The reason that the shapeshifter is a distinct category is that they actually need to experience all four of the other blueprints in order to feel completely filled and satisfied. So when I first came across this system, I realized like I was a hungry shapeshifter because the shapeshifter will just shapeshift into whatever their partner is. So I was in a relationship for many years with a sexual kinky. And so that's what all I was having. I was having sexual kinky sex. But I was starving because my energetic and sensual needs were not being met by that relationship because I was just shape shifting to match my partner's needs. Once I had the additional language to say, "Oh, this is actually the thing that I am missing here," it actually changed the game for me and for that relationship because um, he was then able to sort of meet me where I was at instead of looking at me and going like, I just don't understand what it is that you want. A lot of shapeshifters are told that we're too much, that we're asking for too much, that we're insatiable, that we're like fiendy. But actually, what it is more than anything is just like we have a tremendous capacity for speaking and for listening in these four different sort of languages. We can
Mhm.
play in these four different realms. And if we're not getting all four of those realms, then we feel like something is missing and we'll often like go harder in one of them to try to make up for it when really it's more about having the appropriate balance for us.
Now I'm curious. When you started explaining the shapeshifter piece, the first thing I thought of was service top, and what's the difference between that and a service
Mm,
top? Because I thought of like back when I was dating, sex for me. I'm the typical female blueprint of being,
more
engaging in
sensitive.
sex where it's not really about me; it was about them, and
Mm,
then not really knowing what I like, what I want. But what I did notice is that like if a partner ever was interested in something, that in and of itself would always make me like so hot and horny. I was like, oh, I
hmm
love it. But if I was not with them, I wouldn't care to touch it with a 10-foot pole. So I know
totally.
I have like service top vibes in me. But I'm just curious, what's the difference between that and what you were just describing? Because that's kind of what I started thinking of, like almost like a chameleon. Like you're kind of,
Yes. Yeah.
am I making sense with that?
Right. Totally. I would say the distinction is that the shapeshifter is not necessarily doing it out of a strict desire to meet the other partner's needs or to like to fill the other person's fulfillment. Like
Okay.
they're doing it because they earnestly also enjoy it. They earnestly
Okay.
also can get into that thing that is part of their blueprint, that's part of their makeup,
Fair. Okay.
but they won't necessarily know how to get the other parts met if that person's not into them.
Got it. Got it. Got it. And it's interesting as you were talking too. I made a note because I could see some of my clients and people that I've worked with over
Totally.
time. Like you say that there's the shapeshifter where they categorize all those four, but like I've worked with people that are more on the kinky and the sexual, where
Hmm.
the sexual is the bread, and then the kinky and needing to keep going and going, and then when they're feel like they don't have anything else to go, the sexual then kind of collapses, and then that's when
Mm,
erectile dysfunction comes into play and
interesting.
performance anxiety
Yes,
comes into play.
totally,
That's what I started
totally.
hearing as you were talking about that. And then I have the other clients that are so on the energetic area, the blueprint, and then again the sensual, but I see more people with the sensual on the negative ends of it, where you're pulled out of
Mm,
it, not
hmm.
necessarily pulled in. And this is just like a very interesting thing. So all of
Isn't
this
it
is
such a
to
cool system?
it is, but I think it also creates names for experiences, and I don't think
Hmm.
that's always bad. I know, like, we live in this world where some people are like, oh, another name, another label, blah, blah, blah. But like sometimes it does help people feel seen in their experiences.
Yes.
And I'm just curious, like, how does this blueprint work for you and the men that you're working with? I feel like that's like full circle here. Like, how do you
Yeah.
use this and
Well,
implement it?
I was just thinking, it's like naming things makes things full circle, anyways, right? Because you start with an experience that you're having that defies language, then you find some language that, like, we could agree gets close enough to actually describing the experience that it becomes useful for you to use in relationship with other people. And then on the other side of that, we go back to not needing the language to have the experience anymore,
Yeah.
right? So, like, it's kind of both. Um, I love the erotic blueprints because it gives us the opportunity to actually describe what it is that we need and want, and it gives us a roadmap for getting there. And one of the things that I think is lacking in our world today, and I am lacking in this. If I didn't have the career that I do, I don't know how I would have gotten the information that I have. We lack erotic creativity, right? People come to you and they come to me because they're dealing with some kind of challenge in their sexual life. And one of the things that we give them, among the host of things that we give them, is a permission to think about their sex life through a completely different lens, almost like art to a degree, right? Like, have
Yeah.
you tried this? Have you tried that? Did you try slowing down? What if you took it? What if you put everything away, and checked yourself into a hotel for the weekend? What if you just slowed down? What if you took penetration off the table? What if you put on, an outfit that made you feel empowered and sexy or whatever? Like, we break people out of what they think sex has to look like, what they think it looks like for other people, because they don't know, right?
Yeah.
So we're all running with this idea of, like, it looks like this. Anything other than that makes me weird, abnormal, strange, like, broken, dysfunctional, right? But when I come to my clients and I go, like, did you consider maybe that you're just really energetically sensitive? And so you have this ability to experience a ton of pleasure, but that also causes you to be more likely to reach ejaculation. So what if we slow down and you figure out how to take advantage of your energetic sensitivity and like make that your superpower instead of punishing yourself over and over and over again for your sensitivity? Like, it doesn't have to be a bad thing.
Yeah.
It could be the best thing that's ever happened to you if we look at it creatively.
Yeah, no, 100%. And you're basically talking about what I do day to day with my clients. I'm mapping out their executive function. I'm helping them set their sex up, in a way that's working with their needs, where their brain is wired. And you're doing the exact same thing, just on the level of like curiosity of sex in itself. Like, what you've been sold doesn't have to be your reality, but let's find out what your reality could look like. And let's
Totally.
lean into that creativity, feel comfortable within that creativity, be bold and all of those awesome things. I fucking love that. And I heard about this blueprint before, but I've never heard it in depth. Like, your girl over here took notes. I took
I
notes. I was
saw.
just fucking writing it down. It was like a class for me. I totally will be looking into this more and seeing how I can also integrate this with my clients, because this is so helpful. Just giving extra layers, giving
Yes.
extra ways to view something. When you don't feel like there's only one way, I've noticed you feel liberated. And
Yeah.
this is just
Yes,
another form
yes,
of
yes,
liberation I'm hearing.
totally. Well, and the thing that, when I saw you speak at ASEC last year, which is the conference for sex educators and counselors and therapists, first of all, huge academic crush immediately. Was like sitting in the front row and was just like, oh my God, I'm in love. You could talk forever. I'm so in. But the other thing that I really appreciated about your presentation is like I've been diagnosed with ADHD for 20 years now. And I learned more about ADHD in that hour of your presentation than I think I had previously in the 20 years that I actually lived with it.
Wow.
You're dropping gems on me where I was like, oh, that's me. You know what it was that actually I was weeping because you talked about the way that like sometimes at dusk there's like a lot of light coming in the room from the sun, but it's like too soon to put the lights
Hmm.
inside of the house on or whatever the way you described it. I was like, oh my God, I'm
Yep.
not alone.
That's me. I
Like,
can't.
that's me.
My husband will keep the lights on, not on at all. And once that light differentiation starts, like I start to get so overstimulated and irritable and anxious. And I'm
Yeah,
just like, I gotta put the fucking light on. I can't. I can't do
yeah.
this.
When I realized this whenever I've tried to pack a suitcase around that time, I can't do it. Like
Mhm.
packing a suitcase is too, it's stressful for me anyways. But like there's a time during the day I have to know the sun is going to be up for like 2 more hours or has gone all the way down. If I try to pack a suitcase in the middle there, there will be tears.
Yep.
And when you said that, I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. And I think the thing that you do really well, just in the time that I saw you speak, was like you're very good at creative accommodations. Like, I mean, that's the word that you would use, but like that's how I saw it. Like
Yeah.
you really were able to break a thing down into all of its individual component parts and then reassemble it in a way that empowered the person that you were working with.
Yep.
And that was why I wanted to talk to you about the erotic blueprints today, because I was like, this
This
is
is
to
it. You
me,
do the
this is
exact same
that.
thing I do, but in a different light. It's mapping.
Exactly.
That's exactly what it is. And I think mapping is my like super like strength. I love it. It's stimulating. It's like ooh ooh ooh, and it sounds like that's exactly what you get from the work you do too, because it's like helping people find their map and multiple maps. I'll even say, because I don't think it's fair to say it's one
Right.
map, but giving
Right.
you different locations to place on this map is like the most awesome thing we could be doing for our
Yeah, totally.
clients. It is so awesome when we can help people find that liberation. And it's again, it's not about you being incapable. It's all about access. And that's my shit. Like you're not incapable. It's access. And it sounds like, girl, we are on the same fucking page. Love it.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. This has been so awesome. I hope everyone who has listened today is able to walk away with some different lens. That's always what I'm hoping my listeners get. If anyone is interested in learning more about you, your book, obviously I'm going to put all the information in the description, but if you can give people just a little insight on where they can find you and what you're going to be doing in the next couple of months and what you
Totally.
got going on.
Yeah, so my book, Harder, Better, Longer, Stronger: Science, Skills, and Secrets for the Best Sex of Your Life, comes out on January 27th. And depending on when you're listening to this, we'll be doing a whole lot of pre-order bonuses. So if I don't know when this episode is going to go live, but if you're like around that time, go to HBL, well, even if it's after that time, go to hblsbook.com. That's HBLS, Harder, Better, Longer, Stronger, book.com. You'll get all of the pre-order bonuses. If you're ordering the book after, we'll still have something for you to say thank you for grabbing the book. We'll send you this really incredible workbook because I need a workbook to work along with something if I expect myself to get anything out of it. So the I wrote this incredible workbook. It's like as good as the book. Like they go so well together. I'm so proud of it. You're going to get also some bonus behind the scenes videos, some things that I couldn't include in the book. That'll be in my next book for sure. And then you'll also get a couple like guided meditations that you can do with yourself or with a partner before sex, after sex, during sex. Like we kind of are looking after your nervous system there, and you get to win or get entered to win a whole bunch of other things. So tons and tons and tons and tons of pre-order related stuff. And again, even if you're listening to this after January 27th, 2026, please go to hblsbook.com because that's where you can get all the information on that. Other than that, you can find me on YouTube by searching Caitlin V. I've got 1,000 videos uploaded, so there is something on every single subject that you can go and watch there for free.
Awesome. Oh my God. I'm really excited for you. I can't wait for your book to launch. This is fucking awesome. And thank you so much for being here today, holding space, jamming out, talking. And I just absolutely had a wonderful time. This was very
Me too.
stimulating for me.
A pleasure and honor. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for hanging out with me on ADHD Realities. Hit that subscribe button and share it with a friend who gets it. And always remember, your brain isn't the enemy. Work with it and not against it. Until next time, everyone, be well.